ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोविष्णुं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्णा कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Okay, so we will continue from where we left. So this is the 8th chapter of second canto and 17th sloka. Here Parikshit Maharaj is asking a lot of questions, and then the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam is going to be an explanation of these questions. So there are many different questions he's asking. So today we will continue to see what all he's asking over there. युगानि युगमानं च धर्मो यश्च युगे युगे अवतारानुचरितं यद् आश्चर्यतमं हरेः. Please explain all different ages. Please explain all the different ages in the duration of creation and also the duration of such ages. Also tell me about the different activities of the different incarnations of the Lord in different ages. Right? So this is very nice. This one that what all the different ages are there, like Satya, Treta, Dwapara, Kali, and things like that, and what are their durations. And then primarily he's asking about in all these ages, in all the different millennia. So the Lord appears in different incarnations. So he's very much interested to know about the Lord's appearance in these different ages. Purport. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all the incarnations of Supreme Lord, although non-different from him, are emanations from the Supreme. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the great and learned sage Sukadev Goswami about the different activities of such incarnations, so that the incarnations of the Lord might be confirmed by his activities in the authoritative scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit was not to be carried away by the sentiments of the common man to accept an incarnation of the Lord very cheaply. Instead, he wished to accept the incarnation of the Lord by symptoms mentioned in the Vedic literatures and confirmed by an acharya like Shukadev Goswami. The Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation to the laws of material nature, and thus his activities are also uncommon. So just we were just like seeing this particular point about the Lord. If he is incarnating, so he will already be confirmed by the scriptures. The scriptures actually foretell the appearance of the Lord, even up till the point of the last incarnation, that is Kalki Avatar. Everything is being foretold in the scriptures. No, it is not that some new incarnation has come without any information in the scriptures. So that is not possible. So the Lord, no, it's all scheduled incarnations. It is called as scheduled incarnations. So the Lord comes according to the schedule, which he himself prepares. And that has been foretold in the Vedic scriptures. So nowadays we see in Kali Yuga, so many people with little bit of some power they have, they some siddhis they have, immediately they advertise themselves as God. And people also, we see that oh, I went to this God, and then no, he, because of him I got job, or because of him, no, I got this, I got that. So like, how can I give them up? So actually it is, people advertise themselves as God, and then they may have a little powers. Anybody who meditates, anybody who performs a little austerity, he will get powers. And because of that, they are able to give something to their worshippers. And when they give something to their worshippers, immediately the worshippers call them as God and worship them as God. And when we present Krishna as Supreme Lord, they have problem in accepting. They say that, no, I got this thing from that God and that thing from that God. How can I give that God up? No, and things like that. So it is very important to know that anybody may give anything to us, but if they are saying that they are equivalent to the Supreme Lord, so then it is not very good. It is just like, if we are going somewhere and then somebody is giving us some chocolate and then say, you see, like, no, now I gave you chocolate, now I am your father. So how can we accept that? Just because he gave some chocolate, he'll become my father or what? So in this way, Krishna is our Supreme Lord and Krishna is our supreme origin. And just because some people are giving some benefits, no, we cannot just accept them as God. No, God is very personal. God is very, very related to us. And what to speak of, giving some small material benefits? The Lord is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart since time immemorial, and He's been giving all that is needed to us. He's been arranging the water, air for breathing, food for eating, and everything in this material world He is arranging for us. And just because somebody came in between and he gave a little bit of benefit, so we want to follow him. So it is not, that is not right thing. So we should not be sentimental in this aspect. We should philosophically and scripturally, we should see that who is the Supreme Lord. So we should not be like the small children where you give little chocolate and then carry them away. So that should not be the right attitude. So in Kali Yuga, like there is so many gods. Every street there is a god, and we should not be misled by them. We should be, if we are saying that somebody is God or even very powerful, so we should check with the scriptures. Is there any mention of God appearing in this particular place, in this particular name, and performing these kind of activities? So we will very easily understand, they are bogus God, right? So we should be very careful, in that way, not to be cheated by the imitation or bogus gods, who are there. Okay. So here it is mentioned that the Lord descends by his internal energy without any obligation of the material nature. So Sambhavami Atma Mayaya. And because of that, his appearance itself is uncommon. And then his activities and his pastimes are also uncommon. So they are Shravana Mangalam. It is very, very auspicious to hear about the Lord. Right. So in this way, the Lord's uncommon activities are meant to liberate the whole creation, right? So it is mentioned that Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam, like it is Tava Kathamritam, your Kathamrita, like the gopis are singing in connection to the Supreme Lord. So they're saying that your what is it? Your glorious activities are so wonderful, for the Tapta Jivana, for the people who are caught up in this material world. For them it is very, very amazing. Tapta Jivitam, Kaviviriditam, Srimatandagam, what is that? Bhuvi Grinantiye Bhuritajana. So it ends like that. But then the whole sloka is, the aspect is that the glorification of the Lord is so wonderful that it can actually give solace and it's a rescuing means for all the living entities who are struggling in this material world, right? So his uncommon birth, his uncommon activities are all worth discussing, and they are the only thing which are meant to be discussed. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we are looking at the same thing. So we are trying to discuss on these wonderful aspects. Okay, the specific activities of the Lord are mentioned, and one should know that the activities of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical due to being on the absolute plane. Thus, to hear the activities of the Lord means to associate with the Lord directly, and association with the Lord directly means purification of mental contamination. And we have already discussed this point in previous volume. So this aspect of hearing about the Lord, means to what? It is directly associating with the Lord. It is not something the Lord is somebody and then I'm hearing about him. No, no, the Lord's glories, the Bhagavatam is not different from the Lord. It is directly we are associating with the Lord. So that confidence, that trust, and that faith we should have in Srimad Bhagavatam. In text 18, Nrinam sadharano dharma savisheshascha yadrisha shreninam raja rishinam cha dharmam dharma krichreshu jivatam. Please also explain what may generally be common religious afflictions of human society and as well as their specific occupational duties in religion, the classification of social orders as well as the administrative royal orders and the religious principles for one who may be in distress. So there is different kinds of, this one is asked, like, what will be the different kinds of religious principles and in different scenarios and different people and things like that. Okay, purport. The common religion of all classes of human beings, regardless of whosoever and whatsoever one may be, is devotional service. Right. So this is the ultimate savai pumsa paro dharma yato bhakti radokshaje ahai tuki aprati hatai ayatma suprasidati. So savai pumsa means like human beings, and paro dharma, like the best form of religion for all human beings, is that no ito bhakti radokshaje. So bhakti or devotional service to the Supreme Lord is considered to be the best form of dharma for all living entities. So here Parikshit Maharaj is asking dharma for various classification of people, and Prabhupada is telling here in the first line that the common religious principle for all living entities is devotional service. But then if we materially see, there is there is Raja Dharma is there is Brahmana Dharma is there is Tri Dharma that is there. So different classes of people have different dharmas. But then, if we see on the spiritual plane, so everyone has one dharma, that is paro dharma, that is yato bhakti radokshaje, that is the devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Okay. So even the animals may be included in devotional service to the Lord. And the best example is set by Vajrangaji or Hanuman, the great devotee of Lord Sri Rama. As we have already discussed, even the aborigines and cannibals can also be engaged in devotional service of the Lord if they happen to be under the guidance of a genuine devotee of the Lord. In the Skanda Purana, there is a narration that a hunter in the jungle became the most enlightened devotee of the Lord by guidance of Sri Narad Muni. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord can be equally shared by every living being. Right? The religious afflictions in terms of different countries and cultural circumstances is obviously not common religion of human being. Rather, the basic principle is devotional service, even if a particular type of religious principle does not recognize the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The followers still have to obey the disciplinary principles laid down by a particular leader. Such a leader of religious sect is never supreme leader, because such a circumstantial leader comes to the position of leadership after undergoing some penance. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not, however, require to be under disciplinary action to become leader, as we see in the activities of Lord Krishna. So the Lord is always the Lord. When he was a newborn baby, still he killed Putana, and when he was grown up, still he was all powerful. So it doesn't matter whether he's an infant or whether he's grown up. So he's always very, very powerful. So in this way, you can see that Krishna, the God is always God. He does not need to become God. The occupational duties of the caste and order of society following the principles of livelihood also depends on the principle of devotional service. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that a person can achieve the highest perfection of life simply by awarding the results of his occupational duty unto the devotional service of the Lord. Yat karoshi yadashnashi and things like that. And then sarva dharman parityaja, that is also there. So in this way, like various, this ones are mentioned. So just simply we perform our occupational duties according to the scriptures, and whatever results come, if we offer it to the Lord, so then we become purified. And then people following the principle of devotional service to the Lord can never be put into difficulty, and thus there cannot be any question of apad dharma or religion in distress. So this is apad dharma. All of us, I don't know, like at least the people, little elderly people can know that there was an emergency period. No, I also have heard only, I not seen. So emergency period, during which the military control comes into picture. So that's not the normal constitution that is executed at the time. So it is an apat dharma. Apat dharma means dharma at the time of emergency, right? So here it is mentioned that people who are following the devotional service of the Lord, for them there is no apad dharma. So what did Gajendra do? He was in very great difficulty. So he chanted the names of Lord, he offered prayers, right? So that is basically no Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam. Vandanam is the prayers. No, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam, and things like that. So, no, Gajendra did not need to do any Apad Dharma apart from this 9 forms of devotional service. And Draupadi was in trouble. She also chanted the names of the Lord. She also offered prayers. So, what we are doing, this Navavidha Bhakti, 9 forms of Bhakti, it is not just the fair weather dharma. That means like when everything is going good, I can do this. When things go bad, I have to do something else. No, it is not needed like that. So there is nothing called apad dharma in devotional service, because devotional service is all encompassing. Whether the thing is good, whether I'm happily situated in nice riches and opulences, then also I have to do the 9 process of devotional service. Or if I'm put on the platform, without any riches, and I'm wandering in the streets, still, I have to do the same 9 processes of devotional service. I don't need to do anything different, right? So that is the whole point of this. The devotional, the principle, people who are following the principles of devotional service, they don't need to do anything different. During difficulty, they just need to do whatever they were doing, all the time. So probably the intensity increases, but then the dharma is the same. Okay, as will be explained in this book by great authority, Srila Sukadeva Goswami, there is no religion save and except the devotional service of the Lord, though this may be presented in different forms. So that's the ultimate religious principle, is devotional service. Okay. Tattvanam parishankyanam lakshanam hetu lakshanam purusharadhana vidir yogasya yadhyatmikasya cha. Kindly explain about the elementary principles of creation, the number of such elementary principles, their causes, their development, and also the process of devotional service and the method of mystic powers. So these are all various things that he's asking about. Yogesh Varaishwarya Kathir Linga Bangastu Yoginam Vedopaveda Dharmanam Itihasa Puranayo. What are the opulences of great mystics, and what is their unlimited realization, so ultimate realization? How does the perfect mystic become detached from the subtle astral body? What is the basic knowledge of Vedic literatures, including the branches of history and supplementary Puranas? Right? So Veda and Upaveda. Upaveda means like the sub-Vedas or branches of history, it is mentioned. And then Itihasas, and then Puranas. Puranas are supplementary literatures for understanding the Vedic literatures. Right? So, but then we call Bhagavatam as also Purana, but then this has a much more stronger position than all other Vedic literatures, because we know from the first canto of Bhagavatam, when Vyasadeva had written all the Vedic literatures and he was still feeling very distressed or still feeling not very happy. So then his spiritual master Narada, he comes and he mentions that you have not fully and purely glorified the Supreme Lord, and you must do that thing. So then you will be fully happy. So at the maturity of writing all the Vedic literatures, so then even then Vyasadeva was not happy. And then after writing Srimad Bhagavatam, he was completely happy, right? So it is generally mentioned that the author himself was not happy after writing all the Vedic literatures. So people who follow them, how they will become happy, right? So it is very important that That's why Krishna also mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Traigunya Vishayo Veda, Nistraigunya Bhavarjuna. Most of the Vedic literatures are talking about the three modes of nature, no goodness, passion, and ignorance. And you give up these no general Vedic texts and then take up to this Krishna consciousness, take up to this solid practice of devotional service. And that is what Srimad Bhagavatam is. It is much more than the general Vedic literatures, right? And here it is, Parikshit Maharaj is asking that how great mystics, like what are the great mystics they perform, and what are their opulences, what is their ultimate destination, and how are we going to get detached from the subtle astral body, that is the mind, intelligence, and false ego. So this comprises the subtle body, and still more subtler elements are the three modes of nature, and conditioning based on three modes of nature and things like that. So all these things is quite difficult to crack. And how are these mystics, they are cracking these things? What is their ultimate goal? And then what is their, how are they going to do this particular thing? So these are all some things that he is asking about. Purport: the Yogeshwara, or the mystic, the master of mystic powers, can exhibit 8 kinds of wonders of perfection by becoming smaller than the atom or lighter than a feather, getting anything and everything he desires, going anywhere and everywhere he likes, creating even a planet in the sky, etc. There are many Yogeshwaras having different proficiencies in these wonderful powers, and the topmost of all of them is Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the greatest yogi, and he can perform such wonderful things far beyond the ordinary living beings. The devotees of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, do not directly practice the process of mystic powers, but by the grace of the Lord, his devotee can defeat even the Yogeshwara like Durvasa Muni, who picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambarish and wanted to show the wonderful achievements of his mystic power. Maharaj Ambarish was a pure devotee of the Lord, and thus without any effort on his part, the Lord saved him from the wrath of Yogeshwara Durvasa Muni, and the latter was obliged to beg pardon from the Lord. Similarly, at the time of Draupadi's precarious position, when she was attacked by the Kurus who wanted to see her naked in the open assembly of royal order, the Lord saved her from being stripped by supplying an unlimited length of sari to cover her. And Draupadi knew nothing of mystic powers. Therefore, the devotees are also Yogeshwaras by the unlimited power of the Lord, just as a child is powerful by the strength of the parents. They do not try to protect themselves by any artificial means, but are saved by the mercy of the parents. Right? So it's a very, very important point. So this yogic mystic powers, what is mentioned. So there are many people who practice this, yoga for getting mystic powers. But then if they get mystic powers, it is like, Krishna is all powerful and he is always ready to protect his devotees, right? Rakshayishiti Vishwasho, that is one of the lakshanas of surrender. And he's always ready to protect his devotees. But then if we want to acquire yogic powers, it is like saying to the Lord that, no, what is a guarantee that you will come and protect me? Better you give me some powers and let me have the powers with me. And then whenever it's needed, I can actually use it. So it's kind of, it's like that. It's a very childish thing, or it's not a very right thing to do. If the Lord is saying, I'm going to protect you, then we should say, okay, fine, I have full confidence in you. I don't need any powers and things like that. When you are there, you are going to protect me. So why should I need anything? So that's a very nice attitude that we should have. So here the King Ambarish, he didn't have any specific powers. And like even Draupadi, she also did not know anything about mystic powers. But they were so nice devotees of the Lord that the Lord immediately appeared to protect them, right? So this is the, even though opponents were very powerful, in case of Draupadi, very, very powerful, this one, Kshatriyas, they were, trying to mishandle a woman, what she will do. And here in the case of Ambarish, great mystic yogi, Durvasa Muni, and he's also considered to be one of the amshas of Lord Shiva. He's very, very powerful person. But then the king is not that powerful, but because he's a devotee of the Lord, when he was in trouble, immediately the Lord came to protect him. Right? So Durvasa Muni, he got offended, that Ambrish Maharaj did not receive him properly at home, and then he created a demon to kill Ambrish Maharaj just for a small offense. And no, Ambrish Maharaj he just stood straight and he told that if this is an offense on my part, I am ready to accept whatever punishment is there. And when the demon was approaching Ambrish Maharaj, so no, Lord Sudarshan Chakra appeared there, and Lord Sudarshan Chakra came and killed the demon, and then it started chasing Durvasa Muni. So that's the power of the Lord's devotees. They don't want to have power by themselves, for themselves, but then they are as powerful as the Lord, because the Lord is going to step into the scene if anything happens to his devotees, right? So Maharaj Parikshit inquired from the learned Brahmana Sukadev Goswami about the ultimate destination of such great mystics, or how they attained such extraordinary powers by their own efforts or by the grace of the Lord. He inquired also about their detachment from the subtle and gross material bodies. He inquired also about the purports of the Vedic knowledge. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, the whole purport of the Vedas is to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus become a transcendental, loving servant of the Lord. Vedascha sarva aham eva vedya vedanta krit vedavit eva chaham. So that's the shloka that's quoted here. Okay, text 21. Samplava sarva bhutanam vikrama pratishankramaha ishta purtasya kamaya kamyanam tri vargasya chayo vidhi. Please explain unto me how the living beings are generated, how they are maintained, how they are annihilated. Tell me also of the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service unto the Lord. What are the Vedic rituals and injunctions of the supplementary Vedic rites? And what are the procedures of religion, economic development, and sense gratification? So, purport, Samplavaha, in the sense of perfect means, is employed to denote the discharging of devotional service, and Pratisamplavaha means just the opposite, or that which destroys the progress of devotional service. One who is firmly situated in devotional service of the Lord can very easily execute the functions of conditioned life. Living conditional life is just like playing a boat in the middle of the ocean. One is completely at the mercy of the ocean, and at every moment there is every chance of being drowned in the ocean by a slight agitation. If the atmosphere is all right, the boat can ply very easily, undoubtedly, but if there is some storm, fog, wind, or cloud, there is every possibility of being drowned in the ocean. No one can control the whims of the ocean. However, one may be materially, well equipped. One who has crossed the ocean by ship may have sufficient experience of such dependence on the mercy of the ocean. But one can fly over the ocean of material existence by the grace of the Lord very easily, without any fear of storm or fog. It all depends on the will of the Lord. No one can help if there is some unfortunate danger in the state of conditional life. The devotees of the Lord, however, cross the ocean of material existence without anxiety, because a pure devotee is always protected by the Lord. The Lord gives special attention to his devotees in their activities within the material conditional life. Therefore, everyone should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord and be a pure devotee of the Lord by all means. So there is a nice sloka in the Bhagavatam which says, Samashutaye, like Padapallava Plavam, Mahat Padam Punya Yesho Murare, Bhavam Budirvatsa Padam Param Padam Padam Patam Yad Vipadam Natesham. So this says that one who takes shelter of the Supreme Lord, it is like a very safe boat, especially the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. The lotus feet of the Lord is very, very safe boat. It can actually take a person crossing the material ocean, and completely he can become freed. He can easily cross over this material ocean. And he's mentioning, this sloka mentions that once we board the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, the whole Bhavam Buddhi, or the whole material ocean, becomes like a small puddle of water, which is contained in the hoof print of a calf. It's like calf is a small animal, and hoof of a calf is like even more small. And in the hoof print, how much no water, it can be there. So the whole material ocean becomes like that, and a devotee very easily crosses over it, right? So in this way, we should take shelter of the Lord, and we should cross this ocean of material existence. So one should know, therefore, from the expert spiritual master, the advantages and disadvantages of discharging devotional service, just as Maharaj Parikshit asked his spiritual master. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, according to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, one should, sorry, okay, so from the spiritual master Sukadeva Goswami, and then according to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, one should not eat more than what he requires to maintain the body and soul together. So if we eat more, then no, we will always be tormented by some problems, and we will not be able to focus on devotional service. And then one should not eat, okay, so vegetable diets and milk are sufficient for maintenance of human body, and therefore one has no need to eat anything more to satisfy the palate. One should also not accumulate money to become puffed up in the material world. One should earn his livelihood easily and honestly, for it is better to become a coolie for an honest livelihood than to become a great man in the society by hook or crook, hook and crook. So it's a very nice point. Even Prabhupada often used to quote Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So one should not become a sadhu just to maintain his livelihood. No, then it is better to be a coolie or a street sweeper, and lead a very legitimate and proper life than taking up the process of devotional service to make his own livelihood. So that is not a very good thing. So whatever a person do, he should do it honestly, and he should do it for the pleasure of the Lord. No, otherwise it is not very good. There is no harm if one becomes the richest man in the world by honest dealings, but one should not sacrifice the honest means of livelihood simply to accumulate wealth. Such an endeavor is harmful to devotional service. One should not talk nonsense. A devotee's business is to earn the favor of the Lord. Therefore, a devotee should always glorify the Lord in his wonderful creations. A devotee should not decry the creation of the Lord, defying him by saying that that he has created a false world. The world is not false. Actually, we have to make so many things we have to take so many things from the world for our maintenance. So how we can say that the world is false? Similarly, how can one think of the Lord as being without form? How can one become formless at the same time, have all intelligence and consciousness, direct and indirect? So there are many things for a pure devotee to learn, and he should learn them perfectly by a bona fide personality, from a bona fide personality like Shukadeva Goswami. So it's nice aspect it is mentioned that it is not a problem whatever situation we are in, whether we be the richest man or poor man or whatever it is, but our dealing should be very, very honest. So in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions that Sato Vritti means like good profession. Vritti means profession, and Sato Vritti means like good profession where cheating is not involved. And Prabhupada says that no underhand dealings. No, he actually mentions in that particular this one. So it is very important to have an honest livelihood, and that will help us in progressing in Krishna consciousness. It doesn't matter whether we are rich or poor, but our means of livelihood should be honest. That's the proper this one. Okay, so we had gone till where? So there are many things that's discussed. The favorable condition for discharging devotional service are that one should be very enthusiastic in serving the Lord. The Lord in his form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted the cult of devotional service to the Lord to be preached all over the world in every nook and corner. And therefore a pure devotee's duty is to discharge this order as far as possible. Every devotee should be very enthusiastic, not only in performing his daily rituals of devotional service, but in trying to preach the cult peacefully by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya. If he is not superficially successful in such an attempt, he should not be deterred from the discharge of his duty. Success or failure has no meaning for a pure devotee because he is a soldier in the field. Preaching the cult of devotional service is something like declaring war against materialistic life. There are different kinds of materialists, such as fruity workers, the mental speculators, the mystic jugglers, and so many others. All of them are against the existence of Godhead. Okay, anyway, we'll come to that. So here, no, it's a nice point is mentioned. So a devotee should always be very, very enthusiastic in performing the devotional service, and we should also try to preach the message of Krishna consciousness to others. And in the attempt, we should not feel whether we have been successful or failure. So success and failure is not at all a problem for a devotee because he is just doing it for the pleasure of the Lord, not for getting success. So if we are getting dejected when we are failure, so that means we are not doing things for the pleasure of the Lord. So we are doing it for success. And if we don't get success, we are very sad. No, how come I couldn't able to succeed in this thing? So we should see that we are doing things for the service of the Lord, and then we can be really very, really very confident in any situation that we will not fall prey to these kind of dejections and things like that. Always we'll be enthusiastic and we will be looking forward for performing more and more devotional service. So, and also Prabhupada is comparing this attitude to be like a devotee is compared to a soldier in the field, and preaching the cult of devotional service is something like declaring war against the materialistic life. And in the war, casualties happen, like casualties happen, and then it is not at all a problem. A soldier who goes to the war, he knows that he may be killed, but still he goes there with so much of enthusiasm. So that's very, very important. And even if something happens to us in the whole process, Krishna is there to protect. He will definitely protect. So on the other hand, here it's mentioned, there are different kinds of materialists. Those who are fruity workers, who want the result of their work, and those who are mental speculators, jnanis and mystic jugglers, the yogis and many other personalities. So they are not devotees. What is that? Bhukti, Mukti, Siddhi, Kami, Sakale, Ashanta. Krishna, what is that? Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. So that means like all the people, so Bhukti Kami, that is the fruity workers, and then Mukti Kami, they are the jnanis, and then Siddhi Kamis, they are the yogis. So this always this list of people come. Who are all the non-devotees? So then this list of people is given. Fruity workers, mental speculators, and mystic jugglers, or karmis, jnanis, and yogis. Or we say, in another words, bhukti. Bhukti means material enjoyment. So and then bhukti kami, and then mukti. Mukti means those people who are desiring liberation. Who desire liberation? Jnanis. And then siddhi kamis. The yogis, they desire siddhis or mystic powers. All of them, what? Sakali ashanta. They are not at all happy, in this one, because they don't have Krishna in their whole system. Krishna is not there in the picture. So how can there be happiness without Krishna? It is not possible, right? So sometimes we have also discussed this particular shloka, that naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam nashobanam jnanam alam niranjanam kutab punas sashvadabhadram ishvare nacharpitam karma yate prakaranam. So this says that naishkarmyam, or the nishkama karma yoga, so we are doing the karma kanda activities but without attachment to the results. It is very, very attractive in this world that people do social service, and people do so many selfless service activities and things like that, and the whole world praise that. It's so very attractive to the people, common people in general. But then naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam. If it is done without reference to the Lord, without consultation with the Lord, or without for the purpose of pleasing the Lord, so what is the use? Nashobanam. It doesn't have any beauty in it. So, but then just now we saw that it is very attractive for the common people. Yeah, Bhagavad Bhakti Hinasya Jati Shastra Japas Tapas Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. So, like if without devotion to the Lord, if I do something wonderful, I have taken birth in a high family, Jati, Shastra, I have learned a lot of things, Jati, Shastra, Japa, I am very expert in chanting mantras, and tapa, I am very expert in performing austerities, but all this I am doing without Bhagavat Bhakti Hinasya. So then what it says, Apranasya Dehasya Mandanam Lokaranjanam. It is decorations on a dead body, and people of this world may glorify that, but it doesn't have much value, right? So it doesn't have much value. So that in that way, the sloka, it talks about Naishkarmyam api achyuta bhava varjitam na shobanam. It doesn't have any beauty in that whole process. Na shobanam jnanam alam niranjanam. Even for that matter, if a person is above Nishkama Karma Yoga, is Jnana Yoga. So where a person is not even engaged in the fruitive activities, he's completely satisfied within himself. No, na shoshati na kankshati. So no hankering, no lamentation. Even in such state of perfection of jnani, if the state of existence is without the remembrance of the Supreme Lord, still it is not very good. No. So then still it is not very good. So then the sloka says, no, kutapuna sashvad abhadramishware. What to speak of this abhadra then? Abhadra means inauspicious. Bhadra means auspicious, and abhadra means inauspicious. So what to speak of this inauspicious thing? What is that inauspicious thing? No, like nacharpitam karma yadappa karanam. So the karma kanda section, that is the karma yoga, like proper karma yoga, like not nishkama karma yoga. So proper karma yoga, that means a person is working honestly, and then he's following the Vedic rules and regulations, and whatever comes as a result of his hard work, he's enjoying it for himself. No, that's a legal thing, right? So whatever you work hard, and then whatever comes, like you legitimately enjoy that. So that is called as abhadra. That is called as inauspicious. Why inauspicious? Because there is no what is it? There is no devotion to the Supreme Lord in the whole process, right? So no, this sakama karma yoga, it is called. No, that is called completely abhadra. No, and next level is nishkama karma yoga. So that is, I work legitimately, but then I use the results for I give up the results of the activities. I don't enjoy the results of the activities. Still, it is not very good. And then even higher is give up all the materialistic activities. No, forget about enjoying the results or not. Even give up the activities themselves. So that is jnana, perfection of jnana. Even that is not very great if it is without the remembrance of the Supreme Lord, right? So no, devotee of the Lord means it is not that how much I have given up material things. Devotees of the Lord means how much I am remembering the Supreme Lord. So that's the whole point of devotional service, right? So in this way, we see that, no, that is why it's constantly these things are used. No, we should be free from the mentality of fruity workers. That means I should give up the mentality to enjoy the fruits of my action. And then, no, we should be free, we should be freed from this speculative tendency. So we should just simply listen to Bhagavad Gita, listen to Bhagavatam, and whatever the Lord and the great devotees in the past, they have revealed, the same path we have to traverse. No, mental speculators means they will say like, why this path? No, why not I try some other path? No, I'll try this way, I'll try that way. So that is mental speculation, right? So that will not lead us to the highest goal. So that's also a problem in this one. And Siddhikami, like this mystic yogas, mystic jugglers. So they play around with so much of siddhis, they don't have time to think of Krishna. No, their mind is fully occupied by thinking, how can I get more powers, how can I get more this, more that. So they also cannot think of Krishna properly. So in this way, these people cannot understand. These people cannot understand. They are called non-devotees. That is why. So though they may be very powerful, they may look like religious people, they may they may study the scriptures and things like that, but they are called non-devotees. Non-devotees means those who don't have any affection to the Supreme Lord, or those who don't perform things for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, right? So therefore, a pure devotee may not associate with such gang of atheists. A strong devotee, okay, I don't know, I missed one. All of them are against the existence of Godhead. They would declare that they are themselves God, although in every step and in every action, they are dependent on the mercy of Lord. Therefore, a pure devotee may not associate with such gangs of atheists. As strong devotee of the Lord will not be misled by the atheistic propaganda of the non-devotees, but a neophyte devotee should be very cautious about them. A devotee should see the right discharge of devotional service under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master and should not stick only to the formalities. Under the direction of bona fide spiritual master, one should see how much service is being executed and not simply in the matter of rituals. A devotee should not hanker after anything, but he should be satisfied with things that may automatically come to him by the will of the Lord. That should be the principle of a devotional life. And all these principles are easily learned under the guidance of spiritual master like Shukadeva Goswami. Maharaj Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva Goswami correctly, and one should follow his example. Maharaj Parikshit inquired about the process of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the material world, and the process of Vedic rituals and the method of executing pious activities in terms of supplementary Vedas like the Puranas and Mahabharata. As explained before, the Mahabharata is the history of ancient India, and so also are the Puranas. Pious acts are prescribed in the supplementary Vedas Smritis, which specifically mention digging tanks and wells for the water supply of people in general. To plant trees on the public road, to construct public temples and places of worship of God, to establish places of charity where the poor destitute can be provided with foodstuff, and similar activities are called purta. Similar activities are called purta. Similarly, the process of fulfilling the natural desires for sense gratification was not inquired about by the king for the benefit of all concerned. Was also inquired by the king for the benefit of all concerned. Right? So in this way, like he's inquiring about various aspects of the Vedic system. Text 22. Yo vanusayinam sarga pashandasya cha sambhavah atmano bandha mokshau cha vyavasthanam swarupatah. Please also explain how merged in the body of the Lord living beings are created and how the infidels appear in the world. Also, please explain how the unconditioned living entities exist. So, okay, so these are all another set of questions. Purport: the progressive devotee of the Lord must inquire from the bona fide spiritual master how living entities merged in the body of the Lord again come back at the time of creation. So at the time of universal annihilation, so all the planets are destroyed, and planets are in Sanskrit terms called as loka. Loka means where no people can live. So when all the lokas are destroyed, where will the people live? No, it is not possible for them to live. So then, no, they are all kept in the body of Mahavishnu. So all the living entities are merged in the body of Mahavishnu, and when after the pralaya finishes, after the dissolution finishes, then the next creation, when it happens, all these living entities are given bodies again. So how this process of giving bodies to all the living entities are done, in the beginning of creation? So that is one question that Parikshit Maharaj is asking. Okay, so there are two kinds of living entities. They are the ever liberated and unconditioned living beings, as well as the ever conditioned living beings. That is Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha. So these are two kinds of living entities are there. Of the ever conditioned living beings, there are two divisions. They are infidels. They are faithful and the infidels. Faithful are the ones who are willing to. The Nitya Muktas are there in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha. So ever liberated, unconditioned living beings. And then ever conditioned Nitya Baddha living entities are there in this material world. And in this Nitya Baddha, so there are two kinds of categories. One kind of people are faithful people. They have trust on God. They want to hear about God. They want to learn the process of Krishna consciousness and go back to the spiritual world. And the other kind of people are the infidels. They are envious of the Lord. They cannot tolerate the Lord being glorified. Such kind of people are there. So of the faithful, there are again two divisions, namely the devotees and the mental speculators. The mental speculators desire to merge into the existence of the Lord or to become one with the Lord, whereas the devotees of the Lord desire to keep separate identities and constantly engage in the service of the Lord. The devotees who are not fully purified, as well as the emphoric philosophers, become conditioned again during the next creation for further purification. Such conditioned souls becomes liberated by further progress of devotional service to the Lord. Maharaj Parikshit asked all these questions from the bona fide spiritual master in order to become fully equipped in the science of God. Right? So it's nicely put here about the aspects of uh, you know these various questions are asked by Parikshit Maharaj. So I wish to stop here for today, and then we will continue again tomorrow, right? So it's very, very inspiring to see all of you every single day, like coming and taking this opportunity to hear in a nice way. Thank you all very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.